Hey everybody, this is Ray Flip, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. Welcome you back to what will now be the start of our weekly recap review of Preacher Season 3. And we're going to be starting off by taking a look at the Season 3 premiere, Angelville. Now I'm going to be honest, I hold season openers pretty much the same criteria I hold pilots, which is I'm not expecting a lot because you have an entire season to go over the stuff that we really want you to go over. But I am looking to see how much you're following up on the threads from the previous season. And well, with Preacher, we know Season 2 ended off, well, pretty huge. You essentially have Jesse and Cassidy at each other's throats, driving down a dirt road back to Angelville, and Tulip's dead in the back. Spoiler, she doesn't stay dead long. Unless you've been living under a rock, you pretty much know from the previews and everything like that she's not going to be shuffled off this mortal coil for long. Angelville, meeting those criterias and having put that out there, is an excellent start to Season 3. I am glad that we didn't start the season off with a lot of bang and action and craziness and everything like that. This is not going to be a full recap, but as a review, let me tell you about the main points that I liked and the reason why I liked them. First, we start off with a flashback, which gave us a lot of good backstory on Jesse's mom, her relationship to the Langell family, and how all of that played out. In the flashback, we see that she essentially was the concierge manager for the Langell family, and that estate, Angelville, besides the tours, Grandma Langell, Grandma Marie, had a lot of strong business going on. She had not just everyday citizens that were coming in to pay to get, as one couple was, the fertility and get his libido back, but you had councilmen walking in there getting a spell to take care of his drinking issues. So you can imagine at the time what kind of business, even behind the scenes, that Grandma Marie Langell was pulling in big bucks. But we see this is already now in the midst of her relationship with Jesse's dad and the fact that Jesse is now in play, and we see that she's been hiding a picture of those two from Grandma, from Jody, and from TC. And there's a really disturbing scene between Jody and her where we pretty much know Jody's not going to keep quiet. He's going to tell Grandma, and what ends up happening is she tries to escape. She tries to say that she was going to the city to see a theater and break it off with Jesse's dad, but we know the whole story. She eats the picture before Grandma can find out what it is, and she dares Grandma essentially, in a lot of ways, like, well, don't you wish you knew where it was? Grandma pretty much takes a scalpel, opens her up, and gets the picture out, and instead of stitching her back up, she makes reference to something called the machine. Wow. What I thought was interesting about the flashback was not only do we get really good backstory as to what was going on with Jesse's parents, and I can tell we're going to be getting a lot more. It was also interesting to see the TC and Jody dynamic. The shock in their faces when they were told to not stitch her up. Jody's almost of mice and men attitude and vibe towards her was something else that I picked up on. I thought it gave us a lot about the Langells just in this flashback. A couple other highlights. Purgatory. I will say that while this is collectively the Langell family's episode, individually this is Ruth Negga's episode. While Tulip is in purgatory, she's essentially living with her younger version there, living her past again with her parents. And everything that happened with the O'Hares and what happened with her father trying to go right, and the fact that he just ended up screwing that up. The issue with her mom, and just how her mom just resented and hated her. And there's just this really good sense from Ruth Negga. She visually plays scenes in here with no words, and it just speaks volumes. If this, again, I just want to say Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, Sam Catlin, this should be an episode that you put through for Emmy consideration for Ruth Negga, because she knocked it out of the park with the purgatory scenes. It just really gets to you. The Jesse and Cassidy scenes, wow, I thought they were going to dial back on the animosity between those two. They're not. And it's funny because we wasted no time for Jesse to find out that Cassidy had slept with Tulip, which I knew they weren't going to stretch it out. Wow, they really kind of took care of that up front. So Cassidy is not playing around here. And of course, Grandma, trying to wedge her way into the middle, of course, just really appreciates that Cassidy brought Jesse back to her. So of course she offers Cassidy anything he wants. All he has to do is ask. And that, combined with the whole hot pepper unrequited love conversation, we see that Grandma sees what we see, which is there's a deep divide between Jesse and Cassidy, and that deep divide is named Tulip, and that is absolutely something Grandma looks to take advantage of. And we see by the end of the episode, it already is just by the way he's glaring at Cassidy and Tulip as they're passed out in the bed. Again, no spoiler, Tulip comes back. We'll get to that in a minute. The Langells, Great introduction. It is not easy for actors to come into a show with established characters, and what I loved is it felt like Jesse, Cassidy, and, well, Ruth Negga didn't really take a back seat, but clearly dead for most of the episode in context to them. So this was really a chance for Colin Cunningham, for Jeremy Childs, and specifically for Betty Buckley to really just chew up screen time in such a major way. Talk about in one episode fleshing out the characters from the page, and I'm a lover of the graphic novel, don't get me wrong, but the dynamics between them, the Jody Jesse brother dynamic, the idea of Jody killing Jesse's father, and you can tell the way Grandma has played up the animosity between Jody and Jesse over the years. Again, better have them fighting with each other than having them get along. And you even see there's that brotherly thing with regards to, Jody saying, "You're never going to beat me." And in a weird, bizarre way, you look on Jody's face, you almost, in a weird father figure role, think he's looking forward to the day when Jesse's going to do it, because we know that Jesse's going to do it. Grandma, wow, master manipulator, no other thing to say to that. Betty Buckley just brings a nastiness and evilness to that role that just really knocks it out of the ballpark. Fantastic job across the board. Colin Cunningham, TC, what I love is no over the top. Could have been so easy to play TC over the top, and Colin Cunningham doesn't. He plays him very restrained. You can tell already that there will be moments, and there's a weird, bizarre, twisted sweetness to the way he seems like he wants to buddy up with Cassidy. But yeah, props to Colin Cunningham for doing an amazing job of really just restraining TC, giving him that subtle weirdness and that subtle disturbing to him already, and not just going full on right from the very start. Gotta respect a character that even gets Grandma Langelle a little concerned. We see as he's sewing up Tulip. That's a little disturbing. My last highlight I want to say is the dog god scene. Was not expecting that. I didn't see that coming, and it makes sense for one of the pictures that they released when Ruth Negga's Tulip is walking down the dirt road in this beautiful angelic thing. And I get the impression that we see a much more subtle version of what we saw in the comic book, which is essentially dog god, god dog, whatever we want to call him, her, it, they. It just seems like it's pretty much this like, hey, you're walking back. That's great. You've come back fantastic. Now tell Jesse to get the F off my trail. It's pretty much where I'm getting that impression. I'm very curious to see what Tulip has to say to Jesse once she wakes up and she's recovered and be like, yeah, by the way, I saw God. He is in a dog costume. Yeah, and where that goes from there. But again, amazing episode, fantastic start. There is no way, if you've been loving the series, that you were not seeing this as a great start. It wasn't over the top. It was subtle. It was tense. It was brooding, and it really set up a lot of great storylines from this point forward. And hell, we didn't even get to Hair Star or a lot of the other side storylines that are going on, so it's even more impressive. So all in all, gotta say, great episode, fantastic job. Couple quotes from the episode that I want to mention. Angelville burrows into your heart and will not seem to leave. Boy, there's so many different ways that line can be taken care of. That's said by the tour guide during the flashback in the very beginning. As long as you got your mama with you, you'll be fine. That is what Jesse's mom says to a little boy during the flashback. And again, it is more heartbreaking as we already know how things play out. But to see more examples of how it play out just is more heart-wrenching than we ever expected. It's okay, Daddy. It's just Ruth Negga selling that line when just before all three of them, her younger self, her and her dad in purgatory, just start opening fire on. It's the police and law enforcement, but we all know what the representation of it is. It is just touching in so many ways. The more it hurts, the more it helps. I think that's going to be something, if Grandma ever finds the ability to die, I think that's something that's going to be put on her tombstone, because it really fits a lot of things that were talked about in this episode, and really fits, I think, how she sees life and how she should be running her family. And last, but certainly not least, because I think this is the be-all and end-all line, I need you for everything. And I think it proves one thing, and it's a line Jesse says to Cassidy earlier on. Cassidy can know all the great stuff that Tulip likes, but Jesse knows Tulip. And it's those words and those lines and him coming to the understanding of, like, I should have told you this before. You need to know this now. I can't lose you, because all this stuff I'm doing, none of this means anything, and none of this can happen without you. I need you for everything. I think that pretty much sums up the Jesse-Tulip relationship in a nutshell, and I think a really great way to end this review on.